welcome back to the RDA Perth YouTube channel. Today we're talking with Graham McAlpine, the manager for sustainable farming with the Perth NRM Group, or Perth Natural Resource Management. And we've been speaking about their Food Futures program and the things that they're looking at. So Graham, as I understand it, there's a lot of new technologies that exist out there that will allow growth of agriculture in the peri-urban space without infringing too much on that urban population that also exists. Can you tell me a little bit about some of that?
Well, there's a range of things. I mean, I've had a fair involvement in horticulture over about 30 odd years, but in more recent times, a lot of the developments, particularly with the peak industry bodies, are around more efficient farming, smarter farming, less use of chemicals, more of a, if you like, a biological management practices, where you look at integrated pest management and so on. So those are basic underlying things that have been going on probably for the last 10 years, but really ramped up in the last 5 years. One of the things that's really changed the scene is to do with digital technology. Precision agriculture in broadacre is now the way to do business, and it's really precision application of inputs based on soil testing and all of those sorts of things. So there are some really smart efficiencies there that are bringing better use of land resources and inputs, so that businesses can run smarter and regional communities can be more buoyant and so on. In horticulture, we've seen in the last couple of years the development of a lot of robotics in terms of sensors that on travelling robots that go into orchards and market gardens that are looking at identification of pests, weeds, spot spraying of weeds, and a whole bunch of other things that are allowing us to be smarter about how we use our inputs and energies in relation to farming. One of the most exciting things, as far as we're concerned, is to do with irrigation. And in our studies over the last 3 to 4 years, we've come in on the back of a lot of great work that's been done by departments of agriculture and so on over the years, which has looked at best practice on water use. Now, in our coastal sands, which are effectively deep voids of sand in which water and nutrients act hydroponically, in other words, they're not retained in the soil very well, the use of water has been a considerable issue, because to keep plants alive, you've got to keep water around the roots. And if the soils are free draining, then the watering needs to be frequent to be able to keep the plants alive and to succeed or to optimise their production. So different things have been tried in relation to improving the quality of the soil, putting mulches and ameliorants in the soil to actually help it retain moisture better. But things like clays and those sort of things, which actually do help, are very expensive and actually become preclusive to the end production effort. So what we've been looking at is some very smart equipment that now exists to be able to measure the amount of moisture that's in a soil, and it's Wi-Fi enabled.
Wow.
The senders actually talk to a cloud-based program that assesses the local weather information from the Bureau of Meteorology, things like heat, dryness, are all measures used to in what's called surface evaporation or evapotranspiration, which is the water that's drawn off the ground and a crop just by the day-to-day weather. Now, in the past, we've had, we call evapotranspiration pans out at farms measured how much water has evaporated off, then done a little calculation and gone, turn the sprinklers on, we've got to put that much water on so the plant can still continue. These new devices actually work on giving us a graph of the soil drying out, a watering event, soil drying out and a watering event, and actually enable us to gauge a trend that happens in our soils with watering events so that we can get smarter about when we water, how often we water, to keep the water around the roots of the plants. And this being cloud enabled, guess what? People are able to look it up on their phone now and be able to see what's happening. So they're becoming more engaged in predictive management of their crops, which is helping with water use, but overuse of water pushes the nutrients beyond the root zone as well. So it's helping them manage nutrients, which is what the plants need to produce the crops. So these technologies are allowing the farmers to become much more proactively involved in the management of their crops and less loss of water and nutrients to underground aquifers.
That's absolutely brilliant. I don't know if you are aware, RDA Perth, we're actually working with universities on a drone research hub around the collection of data. So some of the stuff that you guys have done might be able to feed into that. So that would be great. With that, in terms of glasshouse, greenhouse, aquaculture, what are some of the opportunities that exist there? Because as I understand it, by controlling the environment that closely, we can actually grow things at different times of the year and actually produce stuff for very specific markets overseas. So what opportunities exist?
Yeah, I think one of our issues in Australia is, in pure economic terms, we're land rich and people poor. So when it comes to making decisions about where we produce and how we produce, up until now, it's been pretty much, there's another bit of land, let's just do it. So we have this massive spread of our urban populations, but also our agriculture, which has just seen land as it's a consumable. It's just there, we use it. What we're coming to is the way we've spread and the way we've lengthened the supply chains has actually become a diminishing outcome for us, where it's actually costing us too much to actually do what we're doing, wasting resources, water, all of those sorts of things. So you're quite right, the enclosed or protected systems are becoming quite popular. We've got a couple of very good examples here at the moment. Very sweet strawberries out at Bullsbrook have for many years invested in and experimented with different tunnel house systems, completely enclosed and heated systems from Israel and all sorts of others, but they've come back to a simple tunnel system that comes out of the UK from the Haygrove Group, which actually looks at protected cropping, particular films that go over the top of the crop to protect from certain radiations and so on, but allowing that production to be more contained, less use of chemicals, less all of those sorts of things. And it's a very, very efficient model to the point where they've actually developed a second property or production group at Pemberton to meet their market's needs. We also have a fully enclosed, fully computerised system down at Baldavis Market Gardens, or now called Baldavis Farms, with Sam Camilleri and his family group that have a lettuce leaf production system that is achieving that outcome. If you look at the Sundrop model in South Australia, which is
brilliant,
enclosed, totally enclosed, has its
recycles
water, energy systems. Yep. Again, that's a further example. Now, with our Regenerative Farmers Network, which is our biological farmers group, one of our partners in that program is a group from the Netherlands called Common Lands. And they are working what they call social labs around the world that are looking at more efficient ways of getting regional communities engaged in better production systems and more collective operations. So our Regenerative Farmers Networks is looking at some of the work that's coming out of the Netherlands, and they are principal producers of enclosed production systems, and the majority of the food they produce comes out of those systems. It's a beautiful example to work with. We see it here as still a costly option, but will become more amenable as time goes by, as pressure is put on the value of resources, the extremities that we travel to source our foods and so on, and we see it as an exciting opportunity in the future.
That is absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Graham, and thank you to all our viewers out there. I'm Colleen Yates with RDA Perth, a Regional Development Australia Perth. And yeah, it looks like we have a very bright future for agriculture in the Peri-Urban area. And don't forget to press that subscribe button. We'll talk to you later.